the Netherlands. Small but mighty. This tiny country on the North Sea has a rich history and unique culture that's famous all over the world. We all know it, that little country by the North Sea, famous for its cheese, clogs, and, well, what else? Think tulips, bicycles, and of course, the famous Dutch friendliness. Believe it or not, we were once a world power. In the 17th century, also known as the Golden Age, the Netherlands was one of the richest and most powerful countries in the world. Our ships, loaded with exotic spices, sailed all over the globe. The Dutch East India Company, or VOC, was one of the first multinational companies and played a crucial role in world trade. So how on earth did we go from that glorious Golden Age to, well, this? The transition from a world power to a small but mighty country is a fascinating story full of highs and lows. Time for a deep dive into Dutch history, including a crash course in the Dutch language. We'll discover how the Dutch shaped their land and defended it against the sea. Let's start at the beginning. The first inhabitants of this area were hunters and gatherers, who slowly developed into farmers and fishermen. Well, not entirely true, of course, because the Earth had been spinning for a while before the Netherlands got the memo to exist. Millions of years of geological changes shaped the landscape as we know it today. Let's just say, the beginning of the Netherlands as we know it now, with its dikes, windmills, and eternal battle against the water. The Dutch have always had a special relationship with water, and their innovative water management systems are world famous. Today, the Netherlands is a modern and prosperous country, known for its progressive architecture, bike-friendly cities, and vibrant culture. From the historic canals of Amsterdam to the modern skyline of Rotterdam, the Netherlands continues to fascinate and inspire. And let's not forget the Dutch holidays and traditions. From King's Day to Sinterklaas, the Dutch know how to throw a party. It's this mix of history, culture, and innovation that makes the Netherlands so special. So, whether you're enjoying a piece of cheese, cycling through the tulip fields, or just spending a cozy evening with friends, remember, the Netherlands is small, but mighty. Water, water, everywhere. The Netherlands, a country that's like family with water, is a fascinating mix of land and sea. From its famous coastline to its amazing network of canals, water is always there, shaping the land and the lives of the people who live there. The Netherlands is basically a big sandbox with some peat and clay thrown in. The land itself is a mix of sandy areas, peat bogs, and clay fields, each one making the Dutch terrain special in its own way. The Dutch have been fighting the water's refusal to stay put for a long time. Clever water management structures are everywhere in the country, showing how smart and determined people can be. The North Sea crashes against the Dutch coast without mercy, a constant reminder of how powerful nature is. Stormy seas and high tides test the strength of the land and its people. Rivers like the Rhine and the Maas cut right through the country, bringing life and sustenance, but also the threat of flooding. These waterways are super important, supporting both agriculture and industry. The result? A watery landscape full of lakes, ponds, marshes, and, if you're lucky, the occasional patch of dry land. This mix of water and earth creates a unique and beautiful environment. You might not think of it as the best place to live, with the constant battle with water. However, the Dutch turned this challenge into an opportunity, creating charming villages and towns that blend perfectly with their watery surroundings. They built dikes, constructed dams, and pumped water away as if their lives depended on it. And in many ways, it did. These efforts were not just about survival, but about thriving in a challenging environment. The Dutch have become the best at water management, creating a complex system of defenses that protect their land and allow them to live in harmony with the water. This legacy of innovation and resilience continues to define the Netherlands today. Today, the Netherlands is a lively country where water is not just a challenge but a way of life. From busy cities with pretty canals to peaceful countryside dotted with windmills, the Dutch have embraced their watery heritage. In the end, the story of the Netherlands is one of resilience, innovation, and a deep connection to water. It's a story of turning adversity into opportunity and creating a unique and beautiful country where water is not just a challenge, but a way of life. From Romans to rebels, the Romans were the first to think, hey, that swampy piece of land over there, we can do something with that. Well, they actually came for the Frisians, but that's another story. They founded cities, built roads, and introduced the ever-popular concept of taxes to the local population. Thanks, Romans. After the departure of that toga-wearing tax service, it was a coming and going of different peoples. Franks, Frisians, Saxons, they fought for a place on that small piece of dry land. Eventually, counties and duchies popped up everywhere, and then Charlemagne came over for a cup of tea. He thought, why all these tiny kingdoms? Let's make one big empire. And so it happened. Do we speak Dutch or not? But what about the language? How did the Dutch language actually come about, and how did it develop over the centuries? Did they already speak Dutch back then? Well, no, not really. In the early Middle Ages, there was no such thing as a single Dutch language. It was more of a mishmash of Germanic dialects spoken by different tribes. These dialects differed greatly from each other, depending on the region and the tribe. In addition, there was also the influence of Latin, the language of the Romans, who had conquered much of Europe. Latin was mainly used in the church and by scholars. And later, in the late Middle Ages, a touch of French was added, thanks to the Burgundians who played an important role in Dutch history. It was not until around the 16th century that a kind of standard language began to develop. This was partly due to the printing press, which made it possible to distribute texts on a large scale. The invention of the printing press by Johannes Gutenberg in the 15th century had a huge impact on the spread of knowledge and language. Books could now be produced faster and cheaper, which led to a wider distribution of the written language. In addition, there were also language purists who believed that everyone should spell in the same way. They strived for uniform spelling and grammar, which contributed to the standardization of Dutch. And then there was William van Orange, our very own father of the fatherland. William van Orange played a crucial role in Dutch history. He was one of the leaders of the Dutch revolt against Spanish rule in the 16th century. His leadership and vision were essential for the independence of the Netherlands. William van Orange was tired of paying taxes to the Spanish king and started a little rebellion. This rebellion, known as the 80 Years' War, was a long and bloody struggle. That little rebellion got a bit out of hand and eventually lasted 80 years. It was a period of intense fighting, but also of great changes and developments. The war ended with the Peace of Westphalia in 1648, resulting in an independent Netherlands. This was a turning point in Dutch history and marked the beginning of a new era for the country.